Welcome everyone to the Daily Covfefe on Unsafe Space. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. And I'm your host, Carter Laren, and I'm joined as always by the bad mamma jamma, straight from Texas, Keri Smith. Hi, Keri.
Carter. Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. That was the third time we tried to do an intro to the show. I screwed up twice. So
I thought the training wheels were off, Carter.
I know. Next time someone wants to mock Keri for not getting the show intro perfect, remember, I also screw up. I don't always screw up, but Keri, I think we're going to do a relatively quick show today. You and I have a lot of stuff going on. I've got a meeting in a little while I've got to go to. But this thing has been going around Twitter. I don't know if have you seen this thing from Seattle K through 12 schools, the math thing going around Twitter?
I have not.
Okay. So this is straight out of Seattle's K through 12 school district, school programs. I'll put it up on the screen. So this is looks like a teacher guide kind of thing. This is a screenshot of it. And it's got these questions for math classes. And there's these questions and then sub-bullets. This isn't even all of the questions, but they start off with things like, who is a mathematician? What is my mathematical identity? How does it feel to be a mathematician? What other mathematicians are in my learning community? Who are resources for math learning? Is there an authority for math knowledge? I don't know if I'm not going to read all these. But this is what's being foisted on math students. And it relates to something that we were talking about yesterday, which is this critical theory idea. The social justice is kind of inherently this virus that when it infects another department, its first priority is to self-propagate. Not like teaching the subject is secondary. And actually philosophically, they don't even really believe in objective knowledge. So
what does it mean by what is my math identity?
Right. So like that's the question. Like, well, so you know this, Keri, right? They view everything as even math, right? There is no objective truth. Everything is colored by your social position and your position in relation to the power structure that you're either a part of or subject to. And so everything's in relation to your particular group. So I don't know what is my mathematical identity. I don't know what that means. But you know, it does have this weird kind of I guess being a mathematician is now an identity they're trying to say. I'm not sure. I mean, but look at the next one. What does it mean to do math? And the sub ones under there are, how important is it to be right? What is right? Says who? Right?
Wow. What is right?
So this betrays their crappy epistemology, right? There is no authority in math. Math is something that reality tells you whether you're right or wrong. There's no appeal to authority, but there is appeal to authority in the social sciences because they're non-scientific bullshit. So they're using that same method, and they're trying to infect math with this. What's the difference between right and being a learner? And the next major one, Keri, where does power and depression show up in our math experiences?
What? Wow. I didn't even, it's hard for me to see your screen, so I did not see that coming. But
Sorry.
They're just explicitly SJW. We're power and depression. How does that relate to math? It doesn't.
Right. Who holds power in the mathematical classroom? Is there a place for power and authority? Who gets to say if an answer is right? So again, no one. The reality tells you if your answer is right. 2 + 2 is 4 because it's observably true in reality. There's no expert. If Einstein came along and said 2 + 2 is 5, he would be wrong.
Yes, but he's a man, Carter.
Oh, yes. Sorry. But if a witch doctor from an African tribe who was trans came along and said, then Zer would be correct. So Yeah, what is the process for verifying the truth? I guess a decent question, but not really a math-related question. They also have this question over here: who is smart? Who is not smart? That's that fixed mindset of like you're smart or not smart. I don't know what that's about. Um, can you recognize and name oppressive mathematical practices in your experience? That's not oppressive mathematicians. Oppressive mathematical practices. The
What's an
practice of long
oppressive?
division is
Yeah, like is it like calculus is
oppressive.
oppressive or what?
Maybe. Now keep in mind they do explicitly reject logic and reason as the primary tools of cognition. So maybe it is. Maybe long division is oppressive. Maybe the practice of maybe calculus is oppressive. Differential equations are oppressive. I don't know. Next major question: how is math manipulated to allow inequality and oppression to persist? Who is doing the oppressing? Who does the oppression protect? What does this oppression harm? Who does this oppression harm? So again, it's everything is based. I mean, I just don't even. This has nothing to do with teaching math, obviously.
And what grade is this? What grade is this?
It just said K through 12 Seattle schools, so I'm not sure. But really, this doesn't belong in any math curriculum. This is, you could replace mathematician and mathematical and those words with any subject. This is just critical theory applied to a subject. And there's nothing like, let's just take biology. You would say, who is a biologist? What is my biological identity? How does it feel to be a biologist? What are other biologists in my learning community? Like, there's no, can you recognize and name oppressive biological practices? And you're like, it's a cut and paste word substitution for any subject. It has nothing to do with math. It has everything to do with social justice. How has math been used to resist and liberate people and communities of color from oppression?
Are you joking?
No, that's what it says, right? When has math been used historically to resist and liberate? How can we use data to resist and liberate? How can we use math to measure the impact of activism? It's all focused on activism. The next major question: what does it look like when we own mathematical thinking? I don't know what that even means. To a rational person, mathematical thinking is just thinking. It's about a particular subject, but there's not a different method of thinking for math. It's just thinking. Can you recognize when someone is being mathematical? I mean, it's really a mess. Next major question: in what ways does mathematical literacy impact how we think? Okay, that's just a weird one. How does mathematics allow us to acquire intellectual freedom? And how can math be used to analyze and interpret life? The last ones aren't as weird, but they're not about math. This is, I don't, Keri, you said yesterday that no matter where you are in the country, every school is dealing with, this has been infected by social justice. This is a pretty intense infection. I mean, your kid's not learning math if this is what they're teaching. And they are learning social justice because they're learning that this is how they need to view the world. Everything's about an oppressor. Everything's about power. And it really
I was just thinking, if you're doing this for homework, like you're stretching to come up with these oppressor answers, right? Like you're stressing to come up with, put everything through this funnel of oppression and marginalization and power and the whole ideology that we criticize. That's how you learn. That's how they're teaching them this.
Right, because you're going to be graded, so you're going to have to answer these questions, right? Presumably to the satisfaction of a teacher who's been indoctrinated in social justice. I know I talk about philosophy a lot, but I just want to step back just for a minute and mention something philosophically here, because I think a lot of people, again, philosophy is just kind of this boring thing that doesn't relate to the world, or they think of it that way. But the two of the major branches of philosophy are metaphysics and epistemology. and everyone functions, I won't say 100, they don't function 100% of the time with this metaphysics and epistemology, but most people function with a pretty shared common metaphysics and epistemology, which is the metaphysics is like, I'll call it the primary, the primacy of existence. Like something exists, it has a unique identity. That includes causality as part of its identity, and I'm conscious of that thing. I perceive the things that exist, and that's reality. And that's how you think about everything. That's how you think about all when you eat breakfast, that's how you think about the spoon. I mean, you're not thinking about this consciously, but everything you do, that's your presupposition, right? It's not, you don't imagine that the spoon's only there because you think it's there, or that, you don't walk off of a tall building because gravity is just a social construct. Like you assume that, reality is objective, that existence is primary, and that things exist and they have a particular nature, and you can observe them. And people operate using reason as their epistemology, which is how you acquire knowledge. They assume that 2 + 2 is 4 when they build the bridge, right? They use logic. Logic is just, it's been called the art of non-contradictory integration. So logic is just like you've taken all the things in the world that you've seen, you've made abstract concepts, you've got a model of the world in your head. Logic is just a process that you make sure there's not contradictions there, because there aren't contradictions in reality. That's part of your metaphysical premise. And you make sure that whatever your model is also doesn't contradict reality. So if something happens and it's like, oh, that's different than my model, you change your model because that must not be correct, because reality is giving you feedback. That's how we operate on most of our time during the day. Like, that's how people operate. That's how you drive cars. It's how you go to work. It's how you build things. It's how you do everything. It's mind-blowing to think that there is another set of epistemology and metaphysics that is taught in universities that is different than that. That's actually viewed as actually valid. But that's what critical theory rejects all of that. They believe that there's this kind of inherent self-knowledge that needs to be recovered. If I had to describe it, it would be primacy of classes. Like, well, you might perceive that that's a rock, but remember, you're in this particular class, in this particular identity group, so your perception is based on all of that stuff. And like, the primacy is your social standing. It's what class you're in or what identity group you're in. And they don't believe in any of this. They don't believe in any of the things that make life livable. They just don't believe it. But they can't say that explicitly. But you see that here. You see that in this math thing. You see this, like, who would ask a question in math? Who would ask a question, which is, how important is it to be right? What is right? Says whom? That's not a question that you ask if you have normal common sense metaphysics and epistemology operating. It's really evil stuff. And people, I know it's sometimes boring to be like, who wants to talk about philosophy? But philosophy matters because it leads to this crap. And this crap leads to the destruction of civilization. This is what enables Marxists, and has enabled Marxists, to kill 100 million people last century. It's denial of reality. You need this kind of horrible, because this bad metaphysics and this bad epistemology leads to bad ethics, right? So, like, all that stuff it's all based on this. And this is just an example of how to indoctrinate grade school kids into critical theory and into social justice, just so, and they just do it they just stick it in math, they'll stick it in science, they'll stick it in everything. It's just
infiltrated everything. I
mean, if it's in math, math is about as objective and abstract as you can possibly get. Like, if it's in math, it's everywhere. I guess maybe physics also, you could argue, but like, there's no place left. If it's here, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I don't know. This just really angered me.
No, I get it. It angers me. Totally.
And it's like you said, Keri, it's probably everywhere. You know what? If you have kids in school anywhere in I was going to say in the country, but I guess the world, because I know we have people from the UK and Australia and New Zealand that listen. If you've got kids in school, go look at curriculum. Ask, they should be able to give you some of their curriculum. Go to the sciences. I mean, you can also go to the humanities. Look through that curriculum, and if send us stuff when you find it, because this is everywhere, and it's a virus that we are being told is the cure. But it's like the Matrix movie, right? They view humans as the virus. It is the cure to humans. That's true. It will destroy us. But that's not my goal. I don't know. It just pisses me off, Keri. That's all. I don't have much else to say about it.
Me either. It's depressing.
It is depressing. It is depressing. I don't know. I guess this can be the end of Covfefe today. It's a super short Covfefe. But don't forget to like and subscribe. Go buy some shirts for Keri. Go to unsafespace.com. She loves when you buy merchandise. So go do that. And
we're gonna do some dog shirts next, right? Doggy shirts. Bye, guys.
Help me, everyone. Save me.